fatalities of the U.S. troops in the region since Israel-Hamas conflict began in Gaza. Condemnation for the attacks also poured in from various leaders across the party lines in the U.S. Satellite imagery from Firm Planet Labs on Sunday released a file photograph of the military outpost in Jordan known as Tower 22 that was struck by an unmanned aerial drone attack, killing 3 U.S. service members. Tower 22 holds a strategically important location in Jordan at the most northeastern point where the country's borders meet Syria and Iraq. The satellite imagery's release came as Jordan's official government spokesman Mohanad al-Mubaideen condemned the terrorist attack and said the kingdom will confront the security threats. U.S. military had been key in the fight against Islamic State and has assumed a role as part of the U.S. strategy to contain Iran's build-up in eastern Syria. Japan has said that it has decided to suspend additional funding to the United Nations Agency for Palestinians in Gaza on Sunday amid investigation into allegations of staff involvement in the October 7th attack on Israel. Japan's foreign ministry said that the country is extremely concerned about the allegations and has been strongly urging to conduct the investigation in a prompt and complete manner. Meanwhile, UN officials have urged countries to reconsider their funding pauses for UNRWA. The United Nations is grappling with the fallout of 12 aid workers employed by United Nations Relief and Works Agency being accused of involvement in the October 7th attacks in Israel. Several countries, including the US, UK and Germany, suspended funding to the aid agency. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres urged countries to maintain continuity of aid to Gaza. We get you more in this report.
The United Nations Relief and Works Agency has fired 12 aid workers accused of involvement in the October 7 attacks in Israel and launched an investigation. The UN Secretary General released the statement and said that he was horrified by the allegations. Israel accused the UN agency of anti-Israel incitement.
Every UN body has become weaponized against the Jewish state, exploited as an instrument to aid in the elimination of my people. How symbolic it is, how symbolic is it that on International Holocaust Remembrance Day, it was exposed that UNRWA employees took part in the massacre.
At least 10 countries, including top donors, the US and Germany, paused funding for the UN Refugee Agency for Palestinians, following allegations by Israel that a dozen of its 13,000 staff in Gaza were involved in the October 7 rampage.
Yeah, we have suspended any outlying or yet to be allocated funds for UNRWA, the UN Relief and Works Agency. Pending the results of this investigation, we're obviously going to watch this very closely. We welcome the UN Secretary General and the Commissioner General of UNRWA, their comments today calling for a full investigation.
UN officials implored countries to reconsider a pause in funding the humanitarian aid in Gaza on Sunday, vowing to punish anyone involved in Hamas attack on Israel and warning that aid for some 2 million people in Gaza was at stake. Since the 7th October conflict began, most of Gaza's 2.3 million people have become reliant on the aid that the United Nations Relief and Works Agency provides. Created in 1949, the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, UNRWA, is the biggest UN agency operating in Gaza. It provides healthcare, education and other humanitarian aid to Palestinians in Gaza, the West Bank, Jordan, Lebanon and Syria. Aman Kumar Himanshu's report for DD India.
Person dead in a church in Istanbul on Sunday during the prayers. Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan offered condolences. The attack took place at St. Mary Draperess Church in Istanbul. It is still not clear what was the motive of the attack or why the victim was targeted. Erdogan said that the authorities are working to capture the assailants and they would be found within 24 hours.
Unfortunately, such villains pop up everywhere and the innocent ones pay the price. Now our police are working on it, and I think they will find the perpetrators very soon.
Pope Francis also conveyed his condolences to Turkey after the attack during the Sunday service at a church. The Pope also urged people to have respect for civilians in conflict areas.
I express my closeness to the community of Saint Mary Draper's Church in Istanbul that suffered an armed attack during Mass that caused one death and several wounded.
The Russian and Ukrainian armies remained in tug of war in destroying each other's military targets by waging attacks and offensives in multiple directions on Sunday. The Russian Defense Ministry said Russian forces repelled multiple attacks from Ukraine in the direction of Kupiansk, Krasny, Liman, Donetsk, Kherson and others. The Russian Air Defense Forces intercepted multiple Ukrainian rockets and shot down multiple drones. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian Air Force carried out strikes on areas where Russian military personnel, weapons and military equipment were concentrated, destroying Russian military artilleries. The security service of Ukraine said that it had uncovered a corruption scheme in the purchase of arms by country's military, totaling the equivalent of about $40 million on Saturday. The SBU released images showing raids being carried out. A statement said an investigation with the Defense Ministry exposed officials and managers of Lviv Arsenal who stole nearly 1.5 billion hryvnias for shell purchases. The announcement of mass procurement fraud confirmed by Ukraine's Defense Ministry will have a huge resonance. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky voiced the danger of the Ukraine conflict escalating into World War III as he pressed his case for support from nations from Germany to the United States. In an interview with German state broadcaster ARD on Sunday, Zelensky said if Russia hit a NATO country, it would be the beginning of the Third World War. Zelensky also said he was disappointed that Germany had not played the role it should have played in the first occupation of Ukraine. On Sunday, Zelensky declared his income across 2 years as part of a drive to boost government transparency and root out endemic corruption. Zelensky has called for public officials to disclose their incomes as part of efforts to increase transparency and eliminate corruption as Ukraine tries to meet the stringent requirements for its bid to join the European Union. In a post on the presidential website, Zelensky noted that his income had declined in 2021 and further in 2022 when Russia invaded Ukraine at the end of February. It was the first time he publicly declared his income. In France, farmers continued nationwide protests demanding better pay and living conditions, with the government dropping plans to gradually reduce state subsidies on agricultural diesel. The protests have led to roadblocks on motorways and damage to property, including local government offices. The French government has stepped up security measures as farmers prepare to converge in Paris. Italian farmers have also joined their European counterparts in protesting for almost a week to denounce the European Union's agricultural policies. Protests are ongoing in Italy's major urban centers, including Rome, Bologna, Florence, Milan and Naples. The demonstrators reportedly used tractors on highways to reach the cities, mostly affecting the road traffic entering and leaving urban centers. They are protesting against the increase in the prices of diesel.
Veramente tanti in agricoltura. Non c'entrano nulla. Ieri ho avuto un messaggio bellissimo da parte
Natale è più importante del centinaio.
Thousands of demonstrators turned out in Munich on Sunday as part of an independently organized protest against the German government and its fiscal policies. The protest ran under the motto "Hand in Hand for Our Country" and called for more government help for small and middle-sized businesses. Many at the protests were also against money being spent on Ukraine. Animal rights defenders in Mexico City protested the return of bullfighting to the capital after almost 2 years. They argued that torture is not an art of culture and demanded a final resolution. The Supreme Court allowed the return of bullfighting in December, which has been held in Mexico since the 16th century. Activists hope a final resolution will be reached later this year. The protest took place near the Plaza Mexico bull ring. We're heading for a short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour. Voting in Finland to pick a new president on Sunday to lead the country. Ex-Prime Minister Stubb wins the first round of vote. It is colour and celebrations galore at Canal Grande as tourists witness a spectacular extravaganza at the Venice Carnival.
In a world that never stops, where information shapes our reality, one app stands out, helps you stay ahead of time. Introducing the DD India app, your gateway to a world of news right at your fingertips. Your most trusted source of news goes global, goes digital. Explore a world of options, top stories, live updates, in-depth analysis, and more. Stay informed wherever you are. Real-time alerts keep you ahead of the curve always. The DD India app, connecting you to the world one story at a time. Download now and explore the world of knowledge, insights, and authentic information. Wherever news breaks, whatever it takes.
Connecting corners, cutting across continents.
Stories that matter from across the globe.
Accurate, authentic journalism that serves you right. From politics to glamour, from sports to world affairs. With a fusion of aesthetics and substance. Introducing news in a new avatar. Experience the world through a new lens. Stay tuned to DD India for an exciting journey beyond borders.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour and I'm Preeti. Let's get to you more international updates. Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley started a campaign rally in South Carolina on Sunday. Haley mourned with a moment of silence for the families of the 3 U.S. service members who were killed in an aerial drone attack on the U.S. forces in Jordan. Haley said it is absolutely shameful and those families need to be lifted up. Haley is trying to gain momentum again after coming in 3rd place behind Trump in the Iowa caucuses and 2nd in New Hampshire. Both are now seeking victory in South Carolina.
But what we need to remember together, thank you, the fact that as a military spouse, we lost 3 of our heroes today. And I will tell you the fact that we lost 3 and dozens were wounded after 160 attacks on our men and women in the military. It is absolutely shameful. But what we need to remember is those families need to be lifted up today.
Former U.S. President Donald Trump says he feels sharper now than he did 20 years ago. This is after his rival for Republican Party nomination, Nikki Haley, kept raising doubts about his abilities declining due to old age. Let's take a look at this report.
Former U.S. President Donald Trump marches towards the Republican Party nominations as he remains on the offensive after dominant wins in Iowa and New Hampshire. Now only Nikki Haley is left to compete with Trump for the Republican nomination. Reacting to recent attacks on his age and verbal gaffes by Republican presidential rival Nikki Haley, Trump has said he feels sharper now than 20 years ago.
I'll tell you what, I feel sharper now than I did 20 years ago. I really do. I don't know. It's probably not. And I think anybody running for president should take an aptitude or a cognitive test.
Turning his attention to Biden, Trump focused much of his speech on the southern border. He mentioned that record number of migrants have been caught illegally crossing the US-Mexico border since Biden took office in 2021. In recent days, Haley has accused Trump of being confused and has questioned his ability to be president at his age. Trump has recently made some verbal slip-ups. During a speech on January 19, he confused Haley with former Democratic House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Trump and his allies have begun a campaign to force Haley out of the race, and Trump has threatened to banish from his political orbit any donors who continue to fund Haley. In response, Haley said her campaign started selling t-shirts that said "barred permanently," which she said raised $1.6 million for her campaign.
And what happened after that was a sight to see. Because on election night, we were super excited. We had moved 25 points in the 3 weeks leading up to the election. And Donald Trump was totally unhinged. Unhinged.
Meanwhile, US President Joe Biden took a swipe at his top Republican rival Donald Trump on Saturday, calling him the only loser I see ahead of next week's primary in South Carolina. The Democratic primary in South Carolina is on February 3, and Biden is expected to win handily as he carves an easy path to the party's nomination. Rahul Upadhyay's report, DD India.
In Venezuela, the opposition called for the reversal of Supreme Court's ruling that upheld a ban on presidential candidate Maria Corina Machado's election participation. The court said it found that Machado had been involved in corruption and had lost money for Venezuela's foreign assets. The head of the opposition team said Supreme Court's decision condemned Machado without the right to a defense.
We demand that the counterpart comply with the deal in its entirety, not in pieces. This deal is integrally designed to have a free electoral process and the absolute cessation of all these repressive escalation against social activists, politicians, campaign teams, parties and candidate Maria Corina Machado. We also demand that yesterday's decision be revised for violating the procedure.
North Macedonia's parliament elected Talat Zaferi to head a caretaker government on Sunday. Now, this is the first time that an ethnic Albanian has been held such a high position. He will lead the country until general elections, which will take place in early May. Zaferi got 65 votes in the 120-seat parliament. Albanians make up to 29.5% of the population of North Macedonia. The current government's main task is to secure fair and free elections. Finland headed to the polls to pick a new president on Sunday to lead the country in its new role within NATO after it broke with decades of non-alignment to join the Western Defense Alliance in the wake of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. A second-round runoff between the two top contenders, that is Alexander Stubb and Pekka Haavisto, will be held on February 11th if no candidate obtains more than 50% of the votes in Sunday's election. Both are promising a tough stance towards Russia to lead on the foreign and security policy in close cooperation with the government, representing the country at NATO meetings, while also acting as a commander-in-chief of the Finnish Defence Forces. The Russian Pacific Fleet frigate, the Marshal Shaposhnikov, conducted anti-submarine drills off the coast of South China Sea on Monday, a Russian news agency reported, citing the Navy's press service. The warship detected a mock enemy submarine and confirmed its coordinates with the help of a helicopter crew, which reported that the warship fired a variety of anti-submarine weapons. According to Russia's state news agency, the ships left the port of Vladivostok in Russia's Far East on January 22nd. The Philippines and the US are planning to host a 2+2 meeting of the top diplomatic and defense officials in Manila in March this year. The Philippines ambassador to Washington further said that the meeting will be the first such dialogue between US Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin and their Philippines counterparts. The meeting comes amid tensions between the Philippines and China over the South China Sea. Iranian Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdullahian arrived in Islamabad on the invitation of his Pakistani counterpart, Jalil Abbas Jilani, amid recent tensions between the two countries. Now, as per Pakistan's Foreign Ministry, Iranian Foreign Minister will hold in-depth talks with Foreign Minister Jilani and will also meet Prime Minister. The ministry further said that recently both the countries have agreed to de-escalate the situation. The Southeastern Asian country of Malaysia is all set to coronate the nation's new king on Wednesday. Sultan Ibrahim Sultan Iskandar will be the new king of the country following the successful election from the southern state of Johor to the monarchy in October last year. The king plays largely a ceremonial role in Malaysia, including acting as the custodian of Islam in the Muslim-majority country. But the monarchy has become more influential in recent years due to prolonged political instability in the country. Myanmar's military junta is all set to extend the state of emergency in the country. The junta imposed emergency in 2021 after coup when it seized power from Aung San Suu Kyi's elected government. Junta is cracking down on protesters against its rule heavily. The country has seen a ceaseless cycle of violence since the military seized power. ASEAN has repeatedly urged the junta to halt hostilities and implement its 5-point consensus, but with little impact. Three West African states left the Economic Community of West African States, that is ECOWAS, after the regional economic bloc urged them to return to democratic rule. The three West African states of Niger, Mali and Burkina Faso are led by military, and the decision by the three is a blow to the bloc's regional integration efforts after it suspended the three following the coups. It could further weaken ECOWAS bloc, which has struggled to contain a democratic retreat in the West African region. A look at other stories now making it to the headlines from across the world. SpaceX launched a number of Starlink internet satellites from a Falcon 9 rocket on Sunday. The rocket was launched from NASA's Kennedy Space Center. The Starlink mission to link 23 new internet satellites into low Earth orbit. The Falcon 9 first stage booster has had 17 prior flights, including the AX-1 launched in April 2022. SpaceX has also landed its first stage booster on the drone ship named a Shortfall of Gravitas in the Atlantic Ocean. A multi-vehicle crash in Maryland involving over 40 vehicles left 13 people injured and closed all lanes for 6 hours. The initial chain reaction collision involved 23 vehicles, while secondary crashes affected 20 more. The bridge is 4.3 miles long. Tyler Blocker and Austin Pickett won the parallel free ride Engadine Snow 2024 title, defeating veteran Patrick Ambuhill and Lucas Schneider in the main final. Swiss locals Nalu Nussbaum and Andre Himoz finished third overall on the Corvache North Face in Silvaplana Surlage, Switzerland. Cubans participated in the March of the Torches led by President Miguel Diaz-Canel and former leader Raul Castro to commemorate the 171st anniversary of the birth of national hero Jose Marti. The march began at the University of Havana, where thousands rallied to raise the flame of freedom, shouting revolutionary slogans. Rio de Janeiro's Portela e Unidos da Tijuca Samba School held a technical rehearsal for the annual Carnival Parade despite heavy rains. The competition, a cultural event, features massive floats, feathered headdresses and skimpy costumes. The parade, set to begin on February 9th, will run until February 12th. Venice Carnival, a centuries-old excess period, began with a fairy gondolier, giant rat and Elvis Presley. Tourists lined Canal Grande to watch the colourful flotilla sail past. Masks were used by noblemen in the 18th century to keep anonymity and avoid canal smells or plagues. The festival ends on February 13th. We're heading for a short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour. North Korean leader Kim oversees test firing of submarine-launched cruise missiles. India's Ministry of Education clarifies on UGC guidelines that no reserve vacant posts can be de-reserved. Musical extravaganza, beating retreat ceremony to be held in New Delhi today.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
Welcome to India's holiday capital.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour. A quick relook at the top stories once again. Drone attack kills 3 US troops in Jordan, leaving dozens injured. US President Biden vows to respond to attack. Japan joins other countries suspending funds to the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine, expresses concerns about allegations of staffers' involvement in Hamas's October 7th attacks. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to interact with students, parents and teachers on a wide range of topics with final examinations around the corner in the latest edition of Pariksha Pe Charcha on Monday. Getting you more updates, North Korea tested its new strategic cruise missiles for the second time in a week, calling it a newly developed submarine-launched cruise missile. Now, the missiles flew above the sea off the country's east coast and hit an unspecified island target. The state news agency released photographs of Kim supervising the Sunday test of the missile, which was in fact called Pulvasal 331, which is identical to the strategic cruise missiles that the North said last week were under development. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un said that the missile will add a strategic significance in carrying out the plan for modernizing the army, which aims at building a powerful naval force. Indian President Draupadi Murmu met the tribal guests, tableau artists, NSS volunteers and NCC cadets, officials and other artists on Sunday at Rashtrapati Bhavan. She interacted with the artists who participated in the 75th Republic Day Parade. The meeting showcased India's rich cultural heritage and commitment to national service, reflecting India's unity and inclusivity. The leader also emphasized on the appreciation for diverse contribution to the nation. Stating that India is now world's fifth largest economy, Vice President of India Jagdeep Dhankar said that the country has gone ahead of Canada, UK and France, and it has been achieved because of the right policies, affirmative governance and result-oriented steps taken by the Indian government led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Addressing a gathering at Puducherry University on Sunday, he said that it's a matter of time. In 2-3 years, we would be world's third largest global economy, marching ahead of Japan and Germany, the Vice President added.
We now are world's fifth largest economy. That's not a small achievement. We have gone ahead of Canada, UK and France. And that we have done because of right policies, affirmative governance and result-oriented situation.
The Vice President also said that because of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's vision and ambition, the country made tremendous development in several socio-economic sectors, with many schemes improving the lives of Indian citizens.
In 2022, boys and girls, our digital transactions were more than 4 times of USA, UK, France and Germany taken together. 100 million gas connections have been given to the poor, free. Imagine the banking inclusion that has taken place. Currently, we have 500 million bank accounts that were away from banking inclusion.
The 7th edition of Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's interactive program with school students, teachers and parents, Pariksha Pe Charcha 2024, will be held in Delhi today. The event will be held from 11 a.m. local time at Bharat Mandapam in Pragati Maidan, in which 3,000 participants are expected to interact with the Prime Minister in the program. With the final examinations for various primary and higher school standards due in the coming months, participants will be discussing issues and concerns related to the matter with Prime Minister. Around 22.6 million registrations have been made on the MyGov portal for this program. In a social media post, Prime Minister said that he's looking forward to the gathering of exam warriors at the event.
They were like, really, you're going to meet the Prime Minister?
The forthcoming edition of Pariksha Pe Charcha, or a discussion on exams-related matters by none other than Prime Minister of India, has brought closer to the people of Tripura, a state in the northeast of India. 4 students, Urmitano, Kriti, Sushanta and Insha, have been selected from different schools in and around Agratala by the Ministry of Education to participate in the program. They expressed gratitude to Prime Minister and the Education Ministry for their selection and for providing them a platform.
Been selected from my government portal. There I have actually given a question to ask Sri Narendra Modi ji, and from that basis I have been selected from the weightage of the question. I'm very much happy and I'm very much excited too, as I'll get to know many types of peoples from across India, and it's an opportunity for me to discover myself also in a way.
At first I am very happy as well as excited. The Ministry of Education have given me this opportunity to represent our beautiful state Tripura. How I can reduce my stress before examination, and how to prepare myself before for the examination.
All right, from here, as we've told you that in a short while from now at 11 a.m., the Pariksha Pe Charcha, the interaction of the Prime Minister with exam warriors, will begin. And prior to that, we see the Prime Minister at the exhibition that is being organized at Bharat Mandapam. The Prime Minister is being apprised and he's being acquainted with the displays at the exhibition, and the students there apprising the Prime Minister with the displays. Now, this is a regular annual interaction the Prime Minister holds with the students ahead of the examinations in order to boost their morale. And the students come up with ideas, the students come up with their doubts, the students ask for suggestions from the Prime Minister, share their experiences, share their problems. And this indeed is a very interesting platform where we see the Prime Minister and the students interact in a no holds kind of a atmosphere wherein the students talk their hearts out with the Prime Minister. Here we see the Prime Minister at an exhibition just ahead of the Pariksha Pe Charcha, which will begin in a while from now at 11 a.m. Pariksha Pe Charcha is, as I told you, an annual event that is held every year since 2018. And the Prime Minister interacts with the school students, teachers, parents from across the country and shares tips on how to make board and entrance examinations, how to take board and entrance examinations in a relaxed and a stress-free manner. Just a while back, we also saw two students talk of how excited they are to be part of this Pariksha Pe Charcha program. And the participants for the event are generally chosen through a competition. The winners of this competition are given a chance to attend the event, and also some of the winners get a chance to directly interact with the Prime Minister. So the Prime Minister here interacting with the students at an exhibition, showcasing the innovative displays that are at the exhibition. And here we have the students explaining to the Prime Minister, the students interacting with the Prime Minister, apprising him of what is being displayed at their respective stalls at the exhibition at Bharat Mandapam. A huge opportunity for these students to showcase their innovation, to showcase their creativity to the leader of the opposition. And these visuals up your screens clearly showcasing the power of the youth, the power of the younger generation of the country, and how this is what is being encouraged by the Prime Minister when he time and again talks of the power of the youth and the caliber that has to be tapped. And here we see Prime Minister interacting with students and the students acquainting him with their innovations, with their creativity at the exhibition at Bharat Mandapam in the national capital. The first edition of Pariksha Pe Charcha was held in February 2018. And since then, this is a regular annual event which the students from all across the country look forward to. This is indeed an interesting platform where after talking to the Prime Minister, the students feel lighter, and the Prime Minister gives them tips and suggestions on how to leave the stress and nervousness behind, how to amply use their times ahead of the examinations and not just be bookworms, but also the Prime Minister has laid emphasis on overall development of the body of the child during examinations as well. And also this year we will have interactions from the student, not only just from the students, but also teachers and parents as well. Students ask the Prime Minister for tips, seek advice, pose questions to the Prime Minister. And it is interesting to see that, interesting to find out, in fact, how does a child get a chance to participate in this Pariksha Pe Charcha. The child needs to log on to the MyGov Innovate platform, and the students can submit their responses to the questions that are posed there. Students can also submit their question to the Prime Minister in a maximum of 500 characters, and after then the selection is made. In fact, parents and teachers can also submit their entries in the online activities designed exclusively for them. And some lucky students get a chance to directly interact with the Prime Minister. Remember, this competition is held from students of class 6 to 12. So the Prime Minister today will be interacting with the students. The winners from this portal, the MyGov portal, MyGov portal, those who participate, the winners are selected from amongst them. The winners get the opportunity to be a direct participant, in fact, in the Charcha, in the event Pariksha Pe Charcha, along with Prime Minister. And each winner also gets a certificate of appreciation. So here we have Prime Minister Narendra Modi interacting with students at Bharat Mandapam ahead of the interaction Pariksha Pe Charcha that begins at 11 a.m. This is the 7th edition of the interaction. Since 2018, this has been regularly held, and this is indeed an event that the students of the country look forward to. Now, we all know that Pariksha Pe Charcha is part of a larger movement called Exam Warriors. The Prime Minister initiated this, and he initiated this with an aim to create a stress-free atmosphere for youngsters. And also we've seen how through the NEP, education, the very meaning of education, the very contours of education have been changed, and how education now is more stress-free. It is more about practical learning. It is more about lesser about theory and more about practical exposure. And this is what we see in the visuals up your screens. The Prime Minister being acquainted by students, the students surprising the Prime Minister of their innovation, of the experiments conducted, of the models on display at Bharat Mandapam, the venue for Pariksha Pe Charcha event. The event will start at 11 a.m. and ahead of that, we see the Prime Minister interacting with the students at the exhibition. This event is driven by Prime Minister to bring together students, parents, teachers, and in fact the society together to foster a stress-free environment for the students who will be taking up exams. And this is the toughest time of the year when students begin preparations for examinations. They sit for the examinations, and to make sure that the younger generation is at ease, the Prime Minister holds this interaction, holds this event every year. We also know Exam Warriors is the path-breaking bestseller book by the Prime Minister, where the Prime Minister talks of the individuality of every child that has to be nurtured, that has to be celebrated, that has to be encouraged. Every child should be allowed to express himself. And through this book, in fact, the Prime Minister also pointed out to a refreshing approach towards education. Complete holistic development of a child is what is the center of education through the NEP. And this holistic development, along with knowledge, is given primary importance.